Okay, I'm going to share with you guys how I make a sourdough loaf of bread, just very basic. I make a loaf of sourdough bread once a week at least, and I have for about the past year, so I feel like I've learned a lot since my last video on sourdough. You can go back and look at it, but I feel like I've learned a lot more since that video, and I have better techniques that I want to share with you guys. So first things first, I started with my starter. I fed it last night. It was nice and bubbly when I woke up. It went from here and it grew to like the full length of the jar, which is great, which means I have an active bubbly starter. That's what's going to make your bread expand and rise because it's a natural yeast. So that's also why sourdough bread is really good for your gut health, because it's a natural bacteria that's growing. Okay, so I started out with 125 grams of starter in my bowl, and then I added 300 grams of warm water, and I'm just mixing it up to make sure it's a nice milky texture, or a milky consistency. And then I'm going to add my flour. So I'm going to add 500 grams of flour, and this is going to make one loaf of bread. So I'm using Ancient Grains flour because if you struggle with gluten at all, Ancient Grains oftentimes will not bother you. Like, a lot of people who are gluten-free can eat bread that's made with Ancient Grains, or like any kind of baked good that's made with Ancient Grains. So I'm just going to go ahead and add 500 grams. And you just want this to be a shaggy dough, so I'm just going to really loosely mix all this together. Charlie, need some water. Okay, so now I have a really nice shaggy dough. I'm going to cover this, and we're going to come back to it in about 45 minutes. Okay, so it's been 45 minutes, so I'm going to add in our salt to our shaggy dough. I'm going to measure it on the scale, and we're going to add 12 grams of salt. This is fine sea salt. And I'm going to add a little bit of warm water to it, just so that it will dissolve and absorb into the dough a little bit better. And then we're just going to pinch in the salt. So we're just literally going to like push it into the dough. So by now you can see that the dough is not shaggy anymore. It's kind of holding its shape a little bit, and the gluten inside the dough is starting to pull everything together, and that's what we want. So now we're going to let it sit for another 45 minutes, and we'll come back to it. Okay, so it's been 45 minutes again, and we're going to go and start our stretch and folds. So what we're just going to do is literally take the side of the dough, stretch it out, and fold it over. We want to get air bubbles inside of our dough and stretch it so that the gluten can go all around. Kind of like kneading, but it's just easier. Okay, we're going to come back in another 45 minutes and do another stretch and fold. So now we're going to let this dough rise for about 4 hours, because I've already had 2 stretch and folds 45 minutes apart. Now we're going to let it sit for 4 hours. Here we are 4 hours later. Our bread has risen significantly, which is awesome. This is awesome. Now we're going to laminate the dough, which means we're going to stretch it and fold it, and then we're going to let it rise again. We're going to do this 2 times. So I'm just really lightly, just like ever so slightly flouring my surface. And then I'm going to get all the dough out of my bowl. So I'm just going to stretch. It's stretching really nicely, which means I have a strong amount of gluten in my bread. Oh, careful, bunny. Which is awesome. So I've stretched it. Now I'm just going to fold it like a book. One bookend and the other bookend. And I'm going to roll it up. And I'm giving lots of tension in it as well as I roll. There we go. And then I'm going to pinch in the sides. And then I'm going to make it into a round dough-like ball. So I'm going to add pressure and tension on this side. Oh, just wait, buddy. Do you want to try it? Okay, touch. Very nicely. Okay, Mommy's going to do it. And I'm just going to add tension and pull it towards myself and rotate. Add tension and pull it towards myself. Yeah, thank you. Until I have a smooth side on the top. Now I'm going to put it in my proofing basket. I'm going to put a dish towel on the inside. Just wait. And I'm going to heavily flour my basket so that the dough does not stick to the bowl or to the dish towel. Okay, please don't do that. Okay. Oh, Mommy's just going to do it, okay? And now I'm going to put it smooth side up, smooth side down into the batten basket. Now we're going to let it sit for a few more hours. Okay, we're going to laminate the dough one more time. And this time we're not going to pull apart so much. We're just going to stretch very lightly because we want the dough to continue to rise. Now we're going to roll it up just like we did before. Pinch in the sides like we did before. And then we're going to create friction just like we did before. Okay, now we're going to put the smooth side back in our batten basket, and we're going to let it rise one final time. Just going to pull all the sides together so that they stay. And let it rise one final time. And this is our last rise before we bake the bread. Our last step with the loaf of bread is to bake it. So it's been proofing now for the last 2-ish hours. So we're going to put it on some parchment paper. And then we get to score our loaf of bread. So we just get to choose a design and kind of go for it. I have this scoring knife that I got off of Amazon, and it's really handy because it's super sharp. It just cuts right through the dough. So I'm just going to go ahead and score my loaf. the reason that we score the bread is because there's going to be some air that needs to release inside the bread in the oven anyway, so it's going to create tears in your loaf. So just to have a more aesthetically pleasing loaf of bread, you can score it so that you can control where the air comes out. It just looks better. Inevitably, it's going to tear a little bit anyway because of the expansion in the oven, but you can kind of control it and it looks pretty if you score it. Now I have my Dutch oven in the oven, and it's been in there for a while on 400 degrees, so it's really hot. I'm going to take it out. So it's really hot in here. I'm going to take the loaf of bread and we're just going to throw it in. Put the lid on, and now we're going to bake it at 400 degrees for 30 minutes. Then we're going to take the lid off for 10 minutes, and that will be the end, and our loaf will be ready. Here is our beautiful loaf of bread at the end of the day. It is going to be amazing. I usually let it cool overnight, and then in the morning it's like perfect and ready to have toast with your eggs for breakfast. So my main tips when making sourdough bread is to be patient with yourself, to keep trying, keep practicing. Your first loaf probably isn't going to turn out amazing, but that's okay. Just keep going. And you have to really focus on having a healthy starter. So you need to feed your starter consistently and you have that bubbly consistency. And yeah, just don't give up because it's really fun and it's really good for you. A lot of people who can't eat gluten can eat sourdough bread, so just remember that it's much better for you than store-bought bread that has all the extra added things. So yeah, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!